Welcome everyone, good evening, good morning. Welcome to the Foundation for the Study of Cycles. My name is Lars von Thienen, and once a week we meet here to discuss cycle analysis. So thanks for joining again this week, even if we have a day off or celebrate Easter. So we can relax and think about cycles. So to get it started, today we run for around 30 minutes if you're new to this, and we use current market data, and I will showcase a little bit how to analyze cycles. In most cases, as also today, based on your ideas and on some live interaction. So feel free to drop in your questions as always. For today, I have one special topic I want to showcase and discuss today. It's about how to build composite cycles. As you know, we are using our cycle analysis to detect cycles in the market, whatever data set, and then select different cycles to build a composite. And there are different ways how to build a composite cycle plot. And today I will show or explain the three main procedures or methods how you can build your cycle composite, and I will walk you through what's the difference about these three areas. We will use live data just in a second. So that's the key topic for today. But before we jump into that, we have Easter. This is an important cycle. Do you know how the date of Easter is calculated? Think about it. How is the date of the exact day to celebrate Easter calculated? It's not a fixed day in the calendar. It moves slightly. And what? It's a cycle behind the date of Easter. So therefore, what if not the Foundation for the Study of Cycles? Let's discuss what's about this Easter topic here and what cycles I'm talking about here. So let's go through it. Easter falls on the first Sunday after the full moon date based on mathematical calculations that falls on or after March 21st. So that's the way how to calculate it. So how do we get to the full moon date? The full moon date used to determine the date of Easter, which is explained in the first sentence, is based on the mathematical cycle following the 19-year Metonic cycle. Yes, everything in our world, or in most cases, there is a rhythm behind, there is an harmonic rhythm behind. And in this case, the calculation for the full moon date is based on the Metonic cycle. The 19 years Metonic cycle. I will not go into the details of this specific cycle, but I will leave it up to you. Please do your own research a little bit what's the background of this Metonic cycle. But at least to close the interesting point here for us is the Metonic cycle is a very important and very old cycle, which is used in lunisolar calendars way beyond or before our Western world and Western calendar has come up. So there's a long historical background and knowledge how to calculate calendars with reference to the 19-year Metonic cycle, which is also drilled down in days. It's 6,000 something day cycle. And it's really interesting. So if you feel comfortable with taking some time during this Easter break and want to learn more how Easter is calculated, what's behind this calculation, there is a cycle, the 19-year Metonic cycle. So after the session, feel free to do your own research on that. But we need to mention this today. Okay, so let's get into the topic for today, which is about how to build composite cycles. So therefore, we will go to our cycle analyzer. And I have to talk, so stay until the end, because I need to talk about this beautiful cover here, The Case for Cycles by Edward Dewey, our main founder here. So stay tuned. In about 20 to 25 minutes, I will tell a little bit more about this this cover and this magazine and what's behind that. So as always, if you are live with us, you always get something new. But before we're doing that, let's get into the way how to build a composite cycle. And there are 3 methods I will outline for today. So let's start with the most basic procedure, how to build your cycle composite. For that, I will just, let's use the S&P 500 with latest data. We pull it up here, which is up to just before the Easter break with current market data. So the main procedure is, and that's the first approach to build a composite. And I will go very quickly over this procedure because if you watch these series here, you will know about it anyhow. So go down to the spectrum plot of this data set and then look for the key peaks in the spectrum. So each peak in your spectrum chart represents one active cycle in this series here. So in this case, and look for the peaks which stand out in the spectrum from a visual perspective, or you can see this also in the table. So just by looking at the spectrum here, 165 and maybe 125, 74. This is exactly the same data you will find here in the table. On the right hand side of this section here, it's just the table view. And then you have these additional information here, which is called the bartels score and the strength score here in that case. And this is both important because the strength is more or less around the amplitude change per bar, yeah, which is more important in regards how important this cycle is impacting the current data set or price movement. The higher the strength score, the higher the influence of this cycle on the current data set. And the bartels score is a second verification in regards to the statistical significance of this cycle. So think about it's just 2 ways of measure a cycle. First is the digital signal processing, which pulls out the 165 days cycle here, and the bartels score is a second verification measurement which just checks if this is a valid cycle in the overall data set. So it's not just a one-time cycle detection here. So this cycle is recurring and constantly within this data set. The higher the bartels score, the more indication for that. So that's the basic procedure. So then start with the highest strength here in this case, and then to pick your composite, if you not only want to go by one cycle here, you start then to go down the list. So by strength and bartels score. So you see the 74, the bartels score might be too low. So maybe don't pick it for a composite plot. And then the other one was the 125, which has a good strength score. The bartels score is okay, but above 50, I would say it's okay to use. So then you have your composite based on these 2 cycles. There's also on the right-hand side here in the spectrum another longer cycle with a length of 340 days. The strength score is not so high, therefore it's a little bit more down the list here, but with a very high bartels score. So therefore that's maybe then another way to pick. So this would be a procedure to pick the 3 important cycles here for this daily data set. So you can then always look back in regards to how does this fit to the current data set here. And in our case, it picks nicely the turns of this data set here. So now you have a composite forecast on the right-hand side of this chart based on procedure 1. Procedure 1 is look for the strength, the bartels, look for the spectrum, peaks, pick 3, not more than 5, maybe 1 to 5 cycles here to build your composite here. That's procedure 1. You will know this in most cases anyhow. So now the other 2 methods of picking a composite here are based also on ideas which are shown in our ideas section. And the second approach is use a nominal cycles length model, which was discussed in our last week's session and which was showcased by an idea in our ideas section. So therefore, I will just quickly pull it up. So just to review the second approach, and then I will quickly get to the third idea here. So let's most viewed, and therefore I discussed this idea, the Hurst nominal model for crude. It's not important that we discard crude here, but the nominal model. And this is a second approach how to build a composite. And it does not, you don't need to rely on the Hurst model here, but therefore it's just an approach to use a nominal model or a fixed cycle length model where you want to check if the detected cycles fit into this model. So in this case, and by using this idea, there was the harmonic or the nominal model was defined by Hurst, and I showcased or explained a little bit the idea behind this Hurst idea, which he published in his cycles course. There's a lot of software out there which just focus on this Hurst nominal model and detecting the Hurst nominal model. You can do similar here with this platform here. The only thing you need to have the background knowledge about this nominal model. I will not go into the background of this here. There's a lot of literature out there, but it relates to a nominal model, which means there is a fixed cycle length model and starts with this 18 years, 9 years, 54 months, 18 months, 40 weeks, 20 weeks, 80 days, 40 days, 20 days. So it's a nominal model because it does not always need to be the 20-week cycle, exactly 20 weeks. Cycles can vary around this nominal model. So there's an average length for the 20-week cycle, which is then kind of nominal length. And you will look for cycles which come as most as possible close to this nominal cycle length. So that's the reason why you give some predefined cycle lengths and you are not limited to the Hurst model here. So for example, you can look for the Metonic cycle, which is also a fixed length cycle of 19 years, 6,000 something days. You can then convert this into weeks. And if you have weekly data set, you can look for the nominal cycle length of the Metonic cycle. You can even use the nominal cycle from the moon cycle, which is 27, 28 days, as a nominal cycle length, and then check if you find cycles which fit into this nominal category. So with whatever nominal model you use, you need to have something in mind, what you're looking for as the nominal model. And then you can bring this into the analyzer, which is then possible using our, give me a second, our auto button, which, don't get crazy, which might be in a different place now. Sorry, I just need to clean up my screen here to show it to you. So you remember in this upper section we had this button. It's a little bit now changed. So you need to open the configuration tab and then go to the advanced section and then enable it, because it's an advanced feature. Because if you don't know what to do with the nominal model, just don't use it. So don't touch it. If you don't know what to do, it's disabled by default. Don't enable it. If you want to enable it, it's then called the nominal cycle nearest fit. Yeah. So and in the application, it's not called the Hurst model because it's just a nominal cycle model, and you decide what cycles to put in. You could put in the Hurst nominal model, which is a harmonic of 2. 20 weeks, 40 weeks, and then use the factor of 2 as a ratio to go down and up the nominal model. And the application will just then do a nearest fit approach to your nominal model, because the digital signal processing detects the different cycle length in the data, so the real cycles in the data set you're analyzing. And then the auto button, so if you activate this auto button here, which now shows up here, allows you to fit, I will just clean up all selected cycles. So the second way of building an auto composite is put in your nominal model in the configuration. And then with a click on the nearest nominal cycle nearest fit, it will check about the cycles which are listed here in the list, which have been detected by digital signal processing, if there is a cycle which fits to your nominal model. So And if it is so, if this is the case, it will then select these cycles here automatically. And this was the idea which was shown here. But as said, it's not limited to the Hurst model, which is a very good idea to use, but you're much more flexible. So, for example, use the Metonic cycle, the lunar cycle, whatever nominal cycles you can think about and the nearest fit will check if these cycles are also in the data set you're analyzing. And with the nearest fit, we allow the cycles to deviate from this fixed length. So there is an 5% bandwidth around the selected nominal cycle, and therefore it allows you to check, as you never find this static length in the market. Yeah, this allows you to find the nearest fit model for that. So that's the second approach. So I will just check your questions. Why are the cycles 3, 6, 4? I'm not sure which model. Green to dark green under the colors around the cycle numbers in the left corner. Epis, please help me a little bit which numbers you're referring to, and then I will get to your question later on. So this is the second way to build a composite. Use a nominal model and try to find nearest fit is not a kind of overfitting or curve fitting. It's just that what you and even Hurst, all they told us, cycles are not fixed or static in regards to length. So the nearest fit means it's not fitting the cycle to past data. It's just checking if there is a similar cycle length compared to the nominal model you are looking for. So even if the lunar cycle is 28 days or some point something, or the Metonic cycle is 6,000 something days, if there is a cycle which fits into this category or area, so that's the nearest fit. So we are not curve fitting the data, we are just checking for the data. And now let's talk about the third way to build a composite, because it's something that was asked, and this was also brought up by an idea in this community. But I need to talk about that, because then you understand also a third way how to build cycle composite models here. So first, let's get back to the idea. And it's about harmonic ratios. And even the Hurst nominal model was already built around an harmonic ratio. It's just the ratio of 2. Yeah. If you go through the Hurst model, he's using the factor of 2 to build his nominal model. But there is another idea which was brought up by the community here. So therefore, I use also your ideas to evolve here as a team. And it was this Bitcoin study here, which was showcased using octave harmonics, but the main topic is using harmonics or ratios to build a composite. And I think it's anyhow interesting how good this composite worked out, because you use data of the past. And second, it's important to think about what's the topic around ratios and the harmonic topic to select cycles. So therefore, let's now dig into this idea, which was brought up by you. So thanks for bringing this up. I will just try to explain and make this a broader audience here. So first of all, what you see here, if you pull up the idea, so you can always get back to the idea section and pull up this idea on your own. It's available in the public area section. And then this screen also will appear on your screen here. So first of all, it's using Bitcoin, daily Bitcoin data. And the analysis here was done on 17 March 2020, so a year ago. So the light blue data, which is shown here, is out of sample data. Yeah. So if you're not aware of this, the dark blue is in sample, the light blue is out of sample. So, and first of all, we can also disable the light blue. So this is how the market looked like at March 20. And this is now a composite cycle model, which was built exactly at that point of day. And the way it was built here, you can also read it here in the idea section. And it started always, as I showed you in the scenario 1. Yeah, the scenario 1 is go with the spectrum and the shown peak here, which is, and this is always the starting point, at least if you go with harmonics in the third model. So look out for the most, I call it the most dominant cycle here, because it has the highest amplitude, the highest strength, which good bartels score, so which is the main rhythm of the market at least at this given point here. So it has a length of 289 days, yeah, with a high bartels score. And it clearly stands out in the spectrum here. So even if there are smaller cycles, which might also look good, let's start with this one here as the analysis. And this is, it's not my idea here. So this is how Mark did it here in this area. So it's his idea, so it's not mine. So to be clear, but I showcase this, but it's exactly the way how I recommend it to pick the first Bitcoin, the 289 dominant cycle here. And now, instead of going through the spectrum, yeah, which I showed you in the first idea, and instead of using a nominal model, he is now using ratios. Yeah, so ratios to find the next important cycle, to pick it for the cycle analysis here. So the first, or the simple ratio would be 0.5, which is half the cycle length. Yeah, so it's just half the cycle length of 289. This is anyhow always a ratio which I recommend. For example, fine-tuning technical indicators. Use harmonics or ratios of the dominant cycle. But it's also using ratios to pick other cycles to build a composite cycle length. So, and similar to the nominal model, there are now different procedures or different ways which ratios you would think about. So therefore, we are not fixed to a given set of ratios. This depends now also on your knowledge and your background, which ratios you want to apply. So Hurst used the ratio of 2 to go up, always doubling the cycle length, and build then his nominal model. But there are lots of more ratios you could think of, and more interesting ratios also. So I will not explain a different set of ratios here, but I will just showcase the ideas so that you should pick your ratios. And now we have, and this was done here manually, yeah, in this idea, and I will show you that I have build something into the applications which will help you now building this composite here. So here you used ratios more from the musical scale, but that's maybe an individual topic. So you can use musical scales, you can use mathematicals, you can use Fibonacci ratios, and you will find lots of research which ratios, golden ratio, might be important here. But let's keep it simple. So in this example, the ratios have been used by the musical score. It's explained here in this idea. And before I show you this to build this, I really like this idea because this was the forecast which was done March 2020, which the composite now projecting 1 year into the future without knowing this data series here. So we can even make it a little bit larger here. So this was the full composite forecast, which projecting kind of low, or starting with, I mean, what you're most interested in looking is how is Bitcoin moving. So in March 2020, it projected a low at this point in time with an up move into June 2020. Yeah, so this is, I think, the most important topic you would have looked up, and then a down move into end of 2020, and then a huge up move into March 20. So an up move into today, then following by a down move. I mean, it's always hard to have a 1 year advanced composite cycle here, but if we now enable the data here, and then you're looking always for the timing, not the absolute amplitude move of this composite here. So if we start at the projected turning point here in March, and projected upswing into summer, I mean, it was a perfect match how this composite showcased that this will be, yeah, at this point in time, this will be a low, yeah, with a high in the summer. So at this point in time, it directed us very nicely. And if we then look or just have this in mind here, this is more, or let's go by numbers. So this is, I think, interesting. So here the Bitcoin was at 5,000 and it moved up to 10K. So it doubled, yeah, 100% move. And if we move forward, so there was a high, then you would at least stay out of the market at 9 to 10K. Then it projected a down move. But to be honest, this was more a sideways move into the next uptrend here. So from 10 to 12. So at least this down move was not happening. That's true. But now let's look from this next projected down move here. So this projection here for October, then into the big upswing into March 2021. So I mean, this is looking back. I always appreciate that, but the analysis is out of sample, yeah. So this is not curve fitting anything. This is just explaining using now ratios of the dominant cycle to build a composite cycle forecast. And this forecast projected 1 year ago this phenomenal upswing of Bitcoin into March this year. And now let's check. And it also projects now the end of this exponential rise of Bitcoin here. So it needs to be proven if this is correct. But just if you go back, the data set, this composite cycle picked also all exponential moves in the past of Bitcoin. So we know that Bitcoin had these exponential moves in the past quite some time on different absolute scales. But the exponential move is not the first move of this kind. There was this move in the year of 2017. And then we had another big upswing here in 2019, where this composite played out nicely. So really thank you, Mark, for pulling up this idea based on this data set. And this showcases also first how well composite cycle forecast performs, but they don't perform always that well. So therefore, that's what we're always looking for to learn how to build this composite forecast. For today, what I want to show you is that you can build composite forecast based on ratios. And now there's also something new in our platform. If you will open the configuration tab, go to the advanced section, you will see that there's a new feature which is called cycle harmonics. Yeah, and it's disabled by default. Disabled because you need to know what you're doing. If you don't know what to do with it, leave it disabled. But you can then enable it. There's a quite basic ratios are put in 3, 2, 0.5 and 0.33. So these are basic ratios you can use, and you can also define your error rate to select against. So if you activate the cycle harmonics feature, what you will see there is showing a new area in the cycle analysis, which shows you now the family of cycles in this data set based on your picked ratios. So Mark did this manually in his showcase or example by manually calculating the ratios and finding the cycles which fall into this range, but using harmonics or ratios, which is synonym of each other, is a very important method and approach, and you should always do it. But you need to understand to calculate the harmonics and ratios, and then afterwards a tool or platform can help us in making this more easy. So what are you seeing here? So let's make it a little bit larger. So what you're seeing here is you define the ratios, the error rate, let's make it even simple. And here down below, you see now how the detected cycles relate to each other. So the cycle length shown here down below are exactly the numbers just sorted by length from our digital signal processing. Yeah, so 289192 From the right-hand side, 289, 192. So you see all cycles which have been detected in the data set. And now the arcs from one cycle to the another cycle show you if there is a relation, so an harmonic dependency on harmonic relation between two cycles here, based on the ratios we have defined. So you can now hover over the cycle length, and then the harmonics screen will show you which other cycles have an harmonic relation to the cycle of 289. Based on the defined harmonics in this section here, yeah, and our error ratio. You see, if we make a larger error here, then more relations will show up. So it's quite interactive, and you can even add more ratios here. So if you want also ratio 4 or 0.25, 0.25, you will see that automatically the ratios are in this model here, and then you can hover over the cycles of your interest, and you will directly see the interactive browsing now your relations. So, and in this case, and you can also click here in this list. So if I click on the 289, yeah, you will see on the left-hand side, it will automatically then pick the related, I have the related cycles. So if you click on the list in the active cycles, here, 289, in this section here, it will automatically select the related harmonics based on your ratios. And then you can now pick in your composite, you can pick the one which are highlighted here, the one which the 149, 135, 98, 78. So, but you need to find the harmonics or the ratios up front. But then the cycle analyzer can guide you in which cycles relate to each other. And this is a very, very well-known way of analyzing cycles. It's also called the family of cycles. So this diagram here shows you the family, or it's the family tree. It's the family tree of the detected cycles in this data set. And you can now check how these cycles relate to each other. So to sum the method number 3 up, the method 3 means go to the most dominant cycle, and then to build the composite, select cycles which have a relation or a harmonic dependency to the dominant cycle. Because this is also, if you study data sets and their relation to cycles or composite cycles, it's often the case that they are not 5 of. That's also the reason why I recommend never pick more than 3 or 5 cycles from approach number 1, which I showcased. It's the mechanical way of picking cycles from the digital signal processing, but never pick more than 3, because often it's always enough just to pick the main cycle for this market, which could be the dominant cycle. And if you know the main rhythm, then you can also, or in most cases, you can pick the important harmonics. The harmonics could be different per market or per data set, or you could have an harmonic idea in mind. So the Hurst nominal model has the ratio of 2. If you read the Dewey articles, Dewey in most cases goes with harmonic like 2 and 3. But there are other ways to define your ratios which are important, and there's a lot of research available from different analysts in the cycle research area which recommend different ratios. To make a point here is just each market in most cases has its own definition of ratios or harmonics. So then in this case, it's enough if you find the key, I call it the dominant cycle for this market, and then add up the harmonics to build a composite. Maybe at the most 2 cycles from the mechanical way, which is the first method. So go by digital signal processing, just pick the first most important cycles from the mechanical approach, and then up harmonics on these 1 or 2 cycles to build your composite forecast. That's the approach number 3, which was picked here based on the idea of Bitcoin. So therefore, it's the reason I highlighted that. And I wanted to showcase the new way of viewing harmonic relationship of cycles. Okay, so we reviewed Bitcoin, this idea, and I showed you on the main market how to use the nominal model. Okay, before I get to the questions and answers section, I have promised you to show you something also at the end here. And I want to bring this, couple this with the idea of the family of cycles, because the harmonic ratios is also a topic which Dewey researched on. And one key publication of Dewey was his famous article named The Case for Cycles. It's available on our website of the foundation anyhow, or already in the old way. So this is not a new publication. But you see how beautiful this looks now, thanks to our Chief Operating Officer, Mark McVeigh, which is, I think he's also part of the session today, which is doing a really great job helping us ramping up the foundation and bringing all this content towards you. So even you won't see him maybe here in the front. Mark is doing most of the biggest job here at the foundation to bring all this great content to you. And he's also behind this new article, which I can also post in the section. So this is the link to this article, and it's just a remake or a visual rebranding or republication of the article of Dewey. Yeah, so I will just browse through it, because I mean the content is the same, and the content is anyhow still worth the read. It's a very important article, but now look how beautiful this looks like now. And the charts are still the same charts, still the same content, because I mean this is Dewey's finding, which is a key for the foundation. Go through it, and what I wanted to talk about today, or to close then also today's session, if you look closely into this article, you will find, sorry, I need just to browse to the correct page. Dewey also talks about I'm still here, just scrolling forth and back, finding the rate. He's also talking about families of cycles in this article here. And this is exactly what I showed you in our application now with the ratios, yeah, which I showed you in a second. Families of cycles. There it is. This is what I wanted to highlight. So also in this article here, Dewey talks about families of cycles. There's evidence that there are families of cycle periods. That is, if you find a cycle period of one length, which could be the dominant cycle, you will often find a cycle period in some other thing or things that is exactly twice as long, or periods half as long, a quarter as long, as 8 as long, and so on. Or with double progression, so the factor of 2, you will find triple progression. Cycle with periods 3 times as long. So families of cycles was already an important finding of Dewey, and this is an example here of his publication. So if you put the cycle with the length of 17 years is in the center, and then use the ratios of 2 and 3, you will find these other cycles here. So what I wanted to showcase today is that we still use the idea of Dewey, which is here in this case just showcasing families of cycles, bring this into our new area of cloud, internet, high-end computing. You now need to just pull up the application and you will directly see all the relations, all the families of cycles around the detected cycle. You can browse over the detected cycle lengths and the cycle analyzer will just show you the relations and the families of cycles. So that's what we try to do here in the foundation. We will bring the cycle analysis stuff into the next area where we are today, why the ways of how to use the analysis are still valid, what has been published in those years. So a big shout out to Mark McVeigh for his work on pulling up this great article here. So it makes already now fun to read it. Now back to your question. So this was the key section for today in our Cycles TV. And now let's review some of your questions for today. So let me bring in your question into the section, into the video. So Donna, how do I know the ratios? Yeah, that's what or where this Cycles TV series is too short. I think this is a special episode talking about with ratios are important. But I would recommend read the Dewey article, and the key ratios are always double, so factor of 2, factor of 3, and half. So then you have already a family of cycles around the ratios of 2, 3, half, and a third. So these would be the ratios to start. This is where Dewey started anyhow, this research. And then if you research a little bit what harmonics might be useful, you will find other ratios. And the next step then after the 2s and the 3s is think about the harmonics on a musical scale. So music and music is sound, and sound are also waves or cycles. And if it sounds beautiful, if an accord like C-Dur or Moll sounds nicely, it means that the different tones are picked based on special ratios. So the ratios used in the musical tonality and major chords have or could be used also in detecting families of cycles. So this means if sound resonates and sounds great, this is also the same that you can use similar ratios on whatever data sets not related to market. But then these ratios and the picked cycles sound or resonate well to each other. It's similar to why how music and a chord, so playing guitar, playing the piano, why it sounds nicely. You have the right ratios on the keypad which you're using. So that's why cycles and ratios are always there, and sound is just a different way of how you hear cycles here. But Donna, just as a starting point, please go with that. So then getting to you, Bob, thanks for implementing the Hurst suggestion. Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. It would also be great if you could add the weekly intervals as weekly option. Yeah, I think it would make sense so that you have a preset of, if you're on the daily scale, you can use the daily nominal model. If you're on the weekly scale, it would switch to the weekly nominal model. And I know that a Thienen trader has also some defined Hurst ratios for intraday. I always recommend also go to the Thienen Trader website. They are doing a lot of research and publications on this Hurst nominal model, and they also offer special topics on that. They have also been part of our summer event for last year, so we have also a session on that. And then picking the intraday nominal model. So Bob, yes, I have this on the to-do list. Bringing this up and making it more easy to pick different sets of nominal models. And I could also think about also other different nominal models. And it's also a question to you or to you out in the community. If you think about interesting nominal models, as I said, it's not only related to Hurst. There are other different nominal cycle lengths which could be interesting also to check if there's a fit in the data set against. Please bring them up and we can discuss them here. But Bob, yes, the weekly and intraday section will come. The composite, okay, Apis, the composite cycle energy. Yeah, this is a special, also an advanced section you can activate in the cycle analyzer. But to be honest, this is an advanced feature which I don't want to discuss here because it's just a extended way to visualize the cycle composite. And I would keep this Cycles TV more for the basic composite plot and not dig into the extended or advanced stuff here. So please bear, but then we need to do a special topic on the composite energy model, which is an advanced stuff. So, okay, at least we are running now again for 45 minutes. So that's the case now. I want to thank you for staying with me on this a special Easter break or period. Dig into the Metonic cycle. This plays an important role on calculating the day of Easter. I think if you want to learn something of cycles, this is something which is important and impacts once a year why there is a different day for Easter, and what about the Metonic cycle? So Mark, maybe that's also just to bring this up here. I think this was your idea, Mark. So thanks for joining. The major scale ratios are 1/8, 1/4, 1/3, 1/2, 2/3, and 7/8. Exactly what you've been saying. So yes, so this is the major scale from the musical store, and maybe Donna, this may also help you in getting a starting point, which ratios to use. So I think start with reading the article where Dewey mentioned some ratios. Start with what Mark presented here as an idea. Use the new feature to determine the harmonic ratios on the datasets. Play with this idea, and then Google the Metonic cycle, then you have something to even continue after the session. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you will be here next week, learn something on cycles. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, to think about something, and let's see what we will discuss next Monday. So stay safe, and we will see us next week. Bye.